was younger, like Tarzan, yes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Debris. We're going to keep continuing on with Love is Blind Season 8. We're on Episode 3 this time, and we're just going to jump right in. The episode starts with Monica and Joey's initial meeting of each other. They both seem very nervous. Monica says she hopes he likes a tall gal, and when she comes out, she's like kind of hunched down. I don't know if it's the nervousness from being tall or if it's just overall jitters. And Joey doesn't bring her a pebble. He brings her a ring, which is missed opportunity, but I guess he can give her a pebble later. That'd probably be fine. Monica says that she really loves how he looks. He reminds her of Tarzan, so she's totally into it, and she says she really fucks with a good man bun, so she's going to teach him how to do that. Joey says he's keeping his hair long so that he can donate it in the future when it hits 18 inches. They go and have some champagne, they have their first kiss, and they overall seem super stoked to see each other. So let's hope the real world doesn't break them down. After Joey and Monica's first meetup, we get a date with Taylor and Daniel, and honest to God, I don't even know how production is including these dates, because there has been absolutely nothing of interest between Taylor and Daniel. Like, when the most interesting thing about your dates is that you lost your voice, it's bad. It's bad. And basically they talk about having a connection. Daniel says he didn't expect to have a connection with somebody in the pods, and he does. And it's like, I don't know how. How do you have a connection with somebody that the only thing we've seen from all of the filming is them just saying yeah a bunch of times? How do you connect with that? And Taylor brings up that she started having thoughts that maybe the person for her just didn't exist because she saw everybody else falling in love, and she's like, I came to terms with the fact that that kind of love just might not exist for me. And Daniel's like, well, you'll find it. You won't end up alone, whether it's with me or not. I know you won't end up alone. And she smiles, and it's the end of the date. And it's like, please do not include them on any of the vacations or apartments. Like, there's nothing between these two. Nothing. After that lukewarm cup of nothing between Daniel and Taylor, we have a date with Ben and Sarah. And Ben starts the date by coming in the room and saying, the pods, and saying, oh, yesterday you asked me if I'd be okay with your sister. I just want to give you reassurance that I really do support that community, and my faith supports that community. And to me, it's like, for somebody who just keeps spewing that they support that community, it's really weird to me that you won't just say you support gay people or support LGBTQ+. Like, the fact that every time he brings it up, he says, I know people like that, or I support people like that. I support that community. But won't just, even when he brings up her sister, oh, if you asked if I'd be okay with your sister, like, he always falls short of just saying the words gay, bi, lesbian, queer, LGBTQ+. Like, I don't understand, and I really think to her that should be more of a standout mannerism of his, because I think he knows what to say. He wants to say the right thing, and maybe he really does fully believe he supports and is an ally, but I'm not sure that deep within him he fully is there, because there's something that's holding him back. And I know production wasn't like, don't go in there and say the word gay sister. Like, I don't understand why he's so withdrawn from just speaking. And Sarah asks him what his favorite memory is, and he gives her a rundown on how he used to wake up in the morning and play wiffle ball, and then go to a Little League game, and then Dairy Queen, and watch another game with his dad. And Sarah said her favorite memory is when she was 8, her and her sister were playing Xbox, and they matched with a famous team on Halo, and they beat them, and the team was asking them, oh, where are you guys from? You know, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And she said that she liked being able to tell them essentially that they were just young kids. And we're moving on to Madison and Alex. And I was wondering, I was like, how is she going to try to repair this? Because she was clearly spiraling after their last date. And what she did is she introduced Berlin to the cast. So she had production put her Berlin plushie, which is actually super cute. I wouldn't mind having one. It's the best thing about Madison so far is that she's got a Berlin. And she has production put it in Alex's pod, and he asks her if he can keep it for the night, and she says, yeah, as long as I see you again, because it's like, dude, if we're not getting together, like, I still want my Berlin back. Then he asks her, he's like, okay, let's do a little exercise, and oh, I guess before that, they kind of mend things up, where Alex is like, I'm sorry if I came off strong about, you know, having dated women like you in the past. And Madison is like, it really hurt me, and I'm not an avoidantly attached person anymore, just like you're not an anxiously attached person anymore. So I'd say they put a nice bandage on that for now. And Alex tells Madison to lay down on the couch, and he lays down with Berlin. And he's like, okay, now close your eyes and pretend you're on a beach and you hear the waves crashing. And it made me think of when I was in middle school, we did this like program where they like sent all of, I think we were in 8th grade, they sent all the 8th graders out to camp for like 4 days. And I swear to God, they had somebody trying to hypnotize us there. They said it was like relaxation, I don't know, therapy or something. But they were trying to hypnotize us. And this shot with Alex describing like, oh, lay on your back and hear the waves at the beach and you look up and there's stars. It felt like a Timu version of when I was back at camp in 8th grade. Because he just says all right a lot. And it's like when you're trying to get people in the hypnotized headspace, you can't just use filler words. Which I'm guilty of a lot of filler words too, but like I don't try to hypnotize people. After their date, we get a shot of Alex heading back to the men's quarters with Berlin in hand, and all the dudes are like peeking out of the hallway, and Alex is like, I got a gift, and all the guys are like, he's getting married for sure. And it's like, damn, I didn't realize the power the Berlin had. Like, Alex takes one walk into the men's quarters with that thing, and everybody's like, nope, he's hitched. And at one point, they were like, you're not going to sleep a wink tonight. And I'm like, why? What's gonna happen to Berlin? Like, he should be able to sleep just fine. And then it goes into Madison in a little video confessional about how she's like, I gave him Berlin, and I showed him that I could be a good partner. And it's like, did you just use Berlin as a tactic? Because I don't think you should abuse Berlin and use her for your selfish gains that way. But then she says that, you know, she also has a connection with Mason, so I'm sure that's the date we're heading into next. The first thing Mason talks about when he goes into the pod is how he wishes he could be cuddling Madison at night, and it's like, bro, she just gave another man the Berlin. If you only knew where that Berlin came from. And then they just talk a bunch of nonsense about like work, and Madison says she took business classes in college, and Mason goes on and on about how he landed his dream job out of college by basically means of a fluke, he feels like, because he was never great at anything academically. And yeah, so that there was really not much there other than Madison being like, oh, did all your other dates go horribly? And he's like, yeah, you got what you wanted. And it's like, you were just stringing along in hopes for more screen time, Madison. Handing out your Berlin like it's nothing. Telling this guy you want him to cancel dates or hoping that they go horribly. Like, you just want to have your pick of the fucking litter, don't you? Next in the pods, we have Mason and Meg. And Meg brings right up to Mason straight away. Like, she says that she doesn't feel as confident, or she's a little bit upset by the fact that Mason told her he leaves their dates confused. And she said that she leaves their dates feeling more assured of having a connection with him and wanting to be with him, but she tells him ultimately she just wants him to make a choice based on who he would want to be with forever. And Mason tells her that he's never had a connection with anybody like he's had with Meg, and it's like, we'll see. We'll see how that goes, because I'm not sure if Madison has weaseled her way in there enough to create a wedge. Then they start talking about emerald tablets, which is a conspiracy theory. And Mason says that speaking it out loud right now makes him think it might have been a hoax that he fell for, but that he really enjoys having Meg to discuss these kinds of things with. And he's holding a hula hoop the whole time, but they don't do anything with it. So there's a hula hoop in the scene and a little canvas set up, but there's nothing to the date other than them just talking. So, and Meg is like chewing on gum the whole time, and I was like, if I was production, I'd tell her, spit that shit out. So it pans over to the men's quarters, and Mason and Alex are talking about Mason's last date, and Alex asks how it goes, and Mason's like, oh, it was incredible, and he goes, oh, was it your top person? And Mason says, no. This little boy says no. And it's like, you were getting played. You're the backup for Madison. Meg actually is really, really into you. And I don't like how this is going, because then it pans over to the females, and Madison and Meg are talking, and Meg is like, he's pretty much my number one. Madison says she has two, and that each time she sees the other one, she thinks it's them, but then she goes back and forth on it each time she's with it's Mason or Alex. Either she's with Mason and she's thinking he's the one, or she's with Alex and she thinks he's the one. And it's like, no, you don't. You know Mason is your backup. You didn't give Mason the Berlian. You gave Alex the Berlian. You're just trying to have a backup. And Madison starts spewing some fucking fake stuff about how I just want us all to get engaged. And Meg is like, if my guy doesn't end up with me, I just hope he ends up with somebody that's going to make him happy. And I hate the way this is being set up for either Meg to not get engaged to or proposed to over Madison, which, and that in itself, like, really sucks. Or Meg being proposed to by Mason just for the sake of being proposed to, because Madison is going to want to be with Alex. Either way, it's looking like it's going to be a bumpy road with this ahead. Next, we have Dave and Lauren, and they start the conversation talking about, the potential for kids in the future. And Lauren says that it's hard to picture having kids when she doesn't have a husband, and how her friends started having kids at this age. And Dave makes a joke about her being old again, and it's like, I get it, he's trying to be funny, but also there's only so many times where you can make a joke with that tone and have it just be a joke. Like, once you start saying it enough times, it's kind of no longer a joke. There's some truth in there. And basically, Dave says that he can see himself proposing to her, but he hasn't been in love in a long time, so he's not even sure if he realizes what that feels like. And it's like, that's great. That's the foundation you want. I could propose to you, but I'm not even sure what being in love feels like. So then they talk about which chores each would do if they were together, because Lauren wants somebody that's going to be equal to her in the household. And after their date, it goes into a video confessional with Dave, where he says how Lauren makes this experiment confusing for him, because he wouldn't normally go after the nerdy teacher type. And then there's Molly, who is a dancer, who is exactly who he would usually go for. So I'm sure we're about to head on into a Molly and Dave date next. Dave starts the date by letting Molly know that the guys are starting to talk about the names of the women that they're involved with and that are top of their list. And Molly tells Dave that he's the only guy that she's talking to. And it's like, oh, Molly, you're not the only lady. Then they just have like a lot of, I call it fluff, because this is a show that I want to be more dramatic, but it's stuff I guess you would definitely want to ask somebody that you're potentially getting engaged to. They start speaking about how can they get along and stay married even if they have different political alignments, and how they feel about stay-at-home moms. And Molly says that, her mom was a stay-at-home mom and she would love to do that, but she also was fine working. They sit there and they hold their notebooks a lot of the time, and I kind of zoned out and started thinking about, like, what do you think the security is like for these notebooks? Do you think they, like, come around and collect them at the end of each day, like they do the state testing when they would come and gather everybody's notebooks and take them away? Do you think these things are, like, under lock and key? Because if not, I'm surprised we haven't seen somebody start, like, being real crazy and breaking into everybody's journals and figuring out how they feel and who their top is. But, yeah, so unfortunately I didn't get the most from Molly and Dave's date, other than she's all in on him and he definitely has Lauren. Back at the women's quarters, they all decide they want to make a fort. So a few of honestly, most of the women get together and start building this fort, and they're all jammed in underneath of there. And Molly's talking about how happy she is about her last date. And we keep getting the shot of Lauren. It's kind of like a creepy shot because it's like between the rungs of a stool that you could just see her little eyeball staring at Molly. And Molly's talking about how she really thinks that she's going to be a bride and be engaged, or a fiance, I guess, rather, be engaged, and Lauren had to get out of there. She couldn't take the heat of hearing all that, so she had to take off. Devin and Virginia are next. He's got a little basketball setup going with a little tiny basketball he's shooting, and Virginia talks about how in 5 years she wants to be pregnant with a baby on her hip and, serving walking tacos while Devin's the coach of the game. So she wants to work at the little concession stand and help out. And it's actually a really short date. It happens really quick. Devin says basically, he sits down and he's like, this is the part where we have to get deep because I don't feel like you can be married to somebody who you don't feel like you can talk to, which valid, fair. In a little video confessional, he says that he thinks that there's something she's holding back and not saying to him yet, and that he truly believes that you can't start off a marriage that way. And I was like, all his dates have seemed really dull, but maybe that's because he's too normal and they're too normal, and I should take that as a sign that this may be something decent, because I guess if they can't pull too much footage out of you, then you're probably doing a lot better than some of the people on this show. Devin and Britt are up next, and I don't feel so bad about just stammering over trying to pronounce her name correctly, because in his confessional, Devin just full-on calls her Brittany too, which I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I felt like such a dick not being able to just say her name correctly. But they go into the pods, and she's in really high spirits. I think she looks really cute in her outfit. It's like given an artistic vibe. It's different and unique. Not something a lot of people could pull off, but she looks really cute. They start off playing a little mini game of what would you rather. And the first question is, send a sext to your mom or have a tattoo of Whoopi Goldberg on your butt. They both, of course, pick the sext to the mom. Then Devin talks about how everybody in the pods is saying that, oh, there's the perfect girl for you here, there's the perfect girl for you here, and he knows it's her based on the fact he'll just ask them, oh, is she a basketball coach or a basketball player? And they'll say, yeah, and he's like, I know. Then they discuss each other's middle names, and yeah, they just have a good time. They don't get too deep into anything. They just seem to really be, hitting it off and having fun. Oh my God, the next date goes on forever. It's Madison and Alex, and they start off pretty normal, actually. Madison says that she wants to focus on only Alex as her main connection, essentially. Like, she's like, I've been seeing two guys, but you're the one I want to focus on. Then she asks him a bunch of stupid questions, and one of them is like, what would you say to an alien if it came down to Earth? And Alex says, I love you. And Madison is like, I'd get it a McChicken with pickles. And it's like, dude, why don't you fucking warn this thing to get out of here? Either annihilate the place or take off, because they're going to take that thing for science. Like, if you look at the reality of what would happen to an alien if it was here, it ain't some quirky little, we're going to get in a McChicken. That thing's got to go. Then Madison talks about how she, sometimes she can't eat when she's stressed. I guess not even sometimes. She kind of tries to make it clear that whenever she's stressed, she cannot eat. And Alex is like, oh, okay. And she goes, do you want to know why that is? And I'm like, here we goddamn go. Like, here we go with the freaking pity me again. I can already feel it before it happens. And it's like, I don't know. This girl is either too self-absorbed or like she needs some hardcore therapy. But it's like, not every single conversation or scenario needs to come back to the fact that you're traumatized. I get it. People go through stuff. Everybody goes through stuff. But when your default is to explain or talk about or drag every topic of conversation into the fact that you went through stuff, like, there's a manipulative layer and there's a self-absorbed layer, and it's very not healthy, and it's truly something she has to work on. And for somebody that says they have a lot of resources and they're doing great, I think she needs a lot of work, and apparently she has the resources to do it, so I don't know why she doesn't. But yeah, she goes into talking about how when she was young, she would just be like, I'm a robot. I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. I have to take care of the house. Like, I don't feel anything. I'm not part of any of this. And it's like, okay, cool. You recognize that. Like, it's not, I don't want to sound so shitty, but it's like every single date that we've seen this chick in, other than when she's trying to go full sexual manipulation, she just goes back into this, like, I was hurt. Oh, maybe there's people that have went through less than me, but you can make that decision for yourself on whether I'm too much. And it's like, yeah, there's people that went through less than you, and there's people that went through more than you. That is the truth for every person walking on this planet. Every single one, not just you. Meg and Mason are up, and it starts with Meg finding a spider in her pod, and Mason tells her to kill it, and she's like, I'm not going to kill it, I'm just going to let it live its life. She freaks out a bit. I'm making that seem a lot less of a thing than it was, but she freaks out a bit, and then it's like, I'm just going to let it live its life, it's not hurting me. And then they talk about, well, Meg asks Mason if he has a fantasy, and he says he likes to role play. And then the date kind of cuts really quick, but I guess it's because they wanted more of the footage of Meg afterwards. She yells, I miss you to Mason, or I'll miss you, and he doesn't. He just is like, bye, and she's like, he never says I miss you back. And it's like, girl, because I don't think you're his, well, I know you're not his number one. He straight up said it. But she's still all excited and is super mega into him. She leaves and she's talking to Britt, and she's like, oh, I got it bad. I'm either going to be a fiance or I'm going home on a plane heartbroken. And yeah, then she's in the women's quarters talking about how she's pretty much just head over heels for Mason. And I'm really not sure. I'm not sure she's going to get proposed to or not. But it ain't looking too promising. Of course, Madison and Mason are next. And Madison starts off the date by saying, oh, there's another girl that I know has a really strong connection with you, and I can just tell every time she comes back from a date with you. And Mason makes a joke about, oh, is she just glowing? And Madison's like, yeah, she is. And she's like, I don't care, though. And it's like, well, you fucking care to some extent, because that's the literal first thing you bring up in the date, is that you know who his other connection is with. And she's like, oh, I just try to keep it under wraps, keep it a little bit more quiet than that. And Mason says, oh, the guys aren't saying names, which is like, I don't know if they're running in different circles, but Devin literally just said in one of his last dates that the guys are speaking names. So maybe Mason just isn't, or maybe he's not talking to the same group of guys that are throwing out names, but I don't know. Then Madison pulls that little funny ha ha, oh, all your dates go terribly. And Mason was like, yeah, pretty much. And it irritates me a lot because I'm like, this chick, like, she really thinks she's so slick and she is so transparent. It's like nauseating to some extent. She's like, yeah, I don't really care. I like teasing you. I think it's funny. And Mason's like, oh, did all your other dates go crappy? And here, I'll just put the clip up.
Obviously, your dates are terrible, then.
Something like that.
Something like that.
The something like that is that you're telling the other guy that you're ready to go all in on him. So then they start talking about who's been dumped, or are they the dumpy? And Mason says that he always gets dumped because typically the person that he's with falls in love with someone else. And it's like, oh, this case isn't much different. She's just trying to hold on to you in case something were to go wrong with the first guy that she's really putting all her hope into. And I think that Madison pretty much spends most of the rest of the date trying to set up the fact that she wants Mason to think that if anything happens with their connection, it's because she's taking Meg's feelings into consideration and knowing that she's really all in on Mason. And I think that she's being shady and very, very manipulative in this, because the way that her speech is that she's really trying to make him feel a huge connection with her. And like at one point she tries to essentially get him to say that she's his number one, and he kind of comes close to it. And I think the way that she keeps bringing up, oh, I wish I didn't have to take this other girl's feelings into consideration, is she's trying to do like a little martyr thing so that when she eventually breaks it off with Mason or gets engaged to Alex, that she can act like she was just being a gal's gal and, being an A+ person by not stepping on her feelings, when really this whole time Mason has clearly just been her backup plan. And now she's got him right where she wants him, where she can tell that she's his top person, but she's just waiting around to see how her top person really feels about her. Then at the end of the date, she just kind of peppers in that, oh, my other connection is giving me a lot more of an affirming feeling. I'm getting a lot more affirmation from my other connection. And it's like, dude, you're just like, man, I just don't like this girl. But yeah, so she peppers that in at the very end. So of course, Mason is likely going to be thinking, oh shit, I got to try to commit. Otherwise, she might be with her other connection. But I know Madison, if it ends up that way, is going to try to frame it like, I couldn't hurt my friend's feelings. Well, I guess I don't know, but I feel that that's how she'll take it. So, yeah, she just throws that in at the end and lets him know, oh, if it's not me, it's not me. I won't be hurt. I get it. And it's like, dude, you know how he feels about you. You're just trying to remove yourself from any part of blame or manipulation on this guy's emotions. She's clearly all in on Alex, and if she had any respect for anybody, she would just say that. And she's claiming to have dated a lot of bullshitters, but I have a feeling that her exes could say the same thing about her. The episode ends with Madison back in the women's quarters, and for somebody who said they keep it quiet, she's blabbing quite a bit, but it makes sense to me. She's super full of herself, and Meg's over in the corner being like, this is the Hunger Games! So we'll see how that goes. That's it for episode 3, and I want to thank everybody that came here and watched this video. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you for the next episode. Hopefully things start picking up, or we can quickly get to the point where everybody's out of the pods, because that's when stuff gets a little bit more messy, and that's what I'm here for. I want to thank you again. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.